My name is Sandyho Fitzgeralda and I come from Dublin in Ireland. I'm part of a small partnership, a cultural agency called Olivarte, and we do work all over Europe, consulting with, training with and developing culture. We're here in Košice because of a program called Escalator. And Escalator came about as part of the European City of Culture here. And the idea is that it would be a legacy project. And by that I mean it would build capacity in the city for future development of arts and culture. There's 12 participants on Escalator, mainly organizations, but also some artists as well. And our program is to develop with these partners their plans for the future, and then to work with them individually and collectively in training, in study visits, in mentoring, and really developing their needs and what they want to do in their own work. But obviously if they develop their own work here in a city like Košice, they also develop for the future. I think from what we've seen already, there's a huge amount of possibilities, probably not as developed maybe as some other cities that you might have in Western Europe, but the enthusiasm and the energy is maybe sometimes missing from these bigger cities. And it's very exciting to be working with these people and to see a development over the time we're here, but also I think over the next years. I think the biggest threat to this development or these possibilities is really on the official side, because if the people in the city, as in the powers that be, the people who have the money, the people who make the decisions, don't support and see these possibilities in the people on the ground, then it's not going to happen, or at least it'll be very difficult. So I would hope that beyond the European City of Culture year, that there will be support for the people involved in Escalator and other people as well outside of Escalator, but that the whole dynamic will change. And if a City of Culture is really going to be successful, then the dynamic should change after it's finished. It's not really about when it's on, it's really about when it finishes and what the future looks like. So in 3 years' time or 4 years' time or even 10 years' time, if you look back and say, that was the moment when things changed in the city, that is the moment when new initiatives and a whole new generation and whole new possibilities began, then it's a success. If you look back and say, well, that was a nice year and it's finished now, then that's a failure. So whatever happens, you have to look at in the long term. And this initiative, Escalator, is the beginning of that process. It's not the end. It's only the beginning. And the possibilities are really quite enormous for a city like Košice, because it's a small city. It was an industrial city. It's changing now. If it can create new possibilities for young people to stay here, and it can create its own identity, which is also a cultural identity, then the future is going to be very interesting. I think it's very difficult for people to look to the future. I mean, and it's very difficult to think long term, particularly nowadays, because everything is so short term. But maybe 10 years is too long, but certainly it should be a 3-year process. You should put it into a 3-year frame. Very difficult to do if you're a small organization, very dynamic, you're doing a lot of things and you're really surviving from day to day, from week to week. But the only way to develop is to look at planning for the longer term and to try and dream and envisage your future. But I see that in this project. People have big ambitions and big dreams, and so they should. Because if culture is about anything, it's actually about the future. That's the definition of culture. So if we have no future, then there is no culture. There's no point in continuing. If you can see a future and you're working in a dynamic way towards that future, then your culture is very rich, your cultural possibilities are very rich. So one of the threats is not seeing that long perspective. So I think you really have to have that perspective. So in this first week, what we did was we had a group meeting, and we got a sense of everybody's project, everybody's ideas, where we were at. And then we sat down individually with every organization and every artist that was in the group to discuss and to look at what we call a stock take. And that means taking a snapshot almost of what's happening now, what are the really important things that are happening at this point in time with all the organizations and artists. And that means program, their artistic work, the finances, the communications, the threats, the possibilities, everything that goes on the table. And then we look at the future and see, okay, where's all this going? What do you want to achieve? What's your ambition? And then when we've finished all of that, we do what's called a SWOT analysis, which is your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats to your project. And out of that now, we're going to go away and we're going to work on plans for all the organizations and all the artists. And we're going to work with everybody over the next couple of months. We're coming back in June, and we're going to start the actions out of this process. What do people need? Do you need training? Do you need mentoring? Do you need to actually go and visit projects that would be inspiring? You need to do finances, you need to do fundraising. We're going to work with all the projects on these very practical outcomes over the next few months. And put together with them a plan for the future, which again will look at the next 3 years, say, and where they want to go and how to get there.